Oh, hey Hunter, I got a new melding bot if you're interested. Oh yeah? What's in it? Oh, that's a surprise. So you want me to give you my precious materials? Yes, of course. But you won't tell me what I get in return? That's correct. Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, with the coming of Title Update 5 to Sunbreak, we got one very specifically attractive and interesting system. The addition of two new melding types, Vigor and Cyclus. Everyone's been talking about them loads since they came out, about how these new melding types are just a whole step above the old melding methods when it comes to quality of talismans. But by how much? Well, today we're going to pore over the data that has been mined by a fellow by the name of DTL Nor, organize it in visually pleasing ways, and talk about everything important you need to know about the new melding methods in Title Update 5. First up, if you haven't even tried it yet, those melding options use totally different materials to the others, using specifically afflicted monster materials that you get from doing the Anomaly investigation quests. It costs 200 points worth of these to do a full Vigor meld, and by doing this you get a pretty good set of talismans. The Cyclus meld is our new recycling option. It recycles specifically only talismans that you get from Vigor melding in a 10:3 ratio that can provide even more good talismans. However, there is a bit of a catch to that we'll get into later. To start off with, then, let's talk everything you need to know about the Vigor meld specifically. These are what I believe to be generally the 10 most important skills for talismans that were available in the old melding options. Obviously, some are for ranged weapons specifically, but these are generally the skills that players sought out at least for offensive purposes. The way that the skill system works for the Vigor and Cyclus melds is actually quite simple. Different skills have different rarities, of course, but what matters most is knowing what is and isn't possible to be found. The first skill on a talisman, the one at the top, has a higher chance to have more ranks in the skill. I'll be calling these primary skills. The second skill on the talisman is more likely to be a lower level. I'll show specifics afterwards, but that is the general concept, and of course these will be called secondary skills. For the skills that I showed before, these are the levels that they can show up as the primary skill on a talisman. Attack boost at minimum 2, maximum 3, same for critical eye, weakness exploit, critical boost, normal rapid up, pierce up, spread up, ammo up, and burst. Then the various element attacks can show up at level 3, 4, or 5 at the maximum, so you can get all of your element attack from this one place. For comparison of how this looked on the old talismans, here are the ranks they could show up on the previous 3 melds as the primary skill. Attack and critical eye could show up as rank 1 in that slot, which can't happen anymore. That is now just obsolete. Weakness exploit and critical boost couldn't show up at max rank at all, which now they can on the Vigor melds. Element attack was capped at level 3, and burst and all of the range skills that I've got here were capped at level 2. So you can already see that there is a major difference of not just the potential, but also the minimum being a little bit better, as every skill on the list simply cannot show up at its rank 1 version anymore as the primary skill. As a secondary skill, however, they can show up at essentially the same ranks as they could as the old primaries. In other words, think of the secondary slot on the new talismans as being the same power as the primary slots on the old ones. They're that much better. Past this, we have even full-on new skills available to us on the Vigor melds that simply were not in the talisman pool before. These are Dragonheart, Bloodright, Bloodlust, Dereliction of all things, Furious, Mail of Hellfire, Sneak Attack, Adrenaline Rush, Element Exploit, Status Trigger, Defiance, Guts, the Chameleos, Teostra, and Kushala Blessings, Embolden, Intrepid Heart, Build Up Boost, Berserk, Strife, Wind Mantle, Powder Mantle, Frostcraft, and Dragon Conversion. As for their potential levels of the primary skill, Dragonheart can show up at a minimum of level 2 and maximum of level 4, Bloodright, Bloodlust, Furious, Mail of Hellfire, Sneak Attack, Adrenaline Rush, Element Exploit, and Status Trigger can all show up at all 3 ranks as a primary skill. Dereliction can show up at level 1 or 2, Guts can show up at level 1 or 2, Defiance can be on them at a minimum of level 2 and maximum of 5, then the Elder Dragon Blessings can be level 2, 3, or 4 as primary skills. As secondary skills, these all essentially just go down by 1 rank on either end. Dragonheart can be minimum level 1, maximum level 3, Bloodright, Bloodlust, Furious, Mail of Hellfire, Sneak Attack, Adrenaline Rush, Element Exploit, and Status Trigger can be level 1 or 2. Dereliction and Guts can only be level 1 in this slot. Defiance can be a minimum of level 1 and maximum level 4. Then the Elder Dragon Blessings can be rank 1, 2, or 3 as secondary skills. For the next set of skills here, as primary skills, Embolden, Build Up Boost, Strife, Wind Mantle, Powder Mantle, Frostcraft, and Dragon Conversion can all show up at a minimum of level 1 and maximum of level 3, whereas Intrepid Heart, and Berserk can be level 1 or level 2, as these are only 2-level skills. As secondary skills instead, once again these essentially go down 1 rank each for their minimum and maximum. Embolden, Build-Up Boost, Strife, Wind Mantle, Powder Mantle, Frostcraft, and Dragon Conversion can be level 1 or 2 in this slot, and then Intrepid Heart and Berserk can only show up at rank 1 as a secondary skill. And those are all of what were generally considered the important skills, and also all the new skills that can show up in this melding pool that just weren't part of the old one. I'll go over all the other skills as a whole in a little bit in case there are any specific ones that you're wondering about, but before we do that, let's talk about the decoration slots on these talismans, as these are extremely important on talismans as well. An important thing to know is that your decoration slots are not decided by your skills or anything like that. Having certain skills doesn't dictate the amount of slots you can get by any means. They are entirely independent RNG rolls from each other in the Vigor Meld system, just as your primary skill does not mean that you can't get a certain secondary skill. With that said, these slot configurations are not only predefined for slots, but have predictable probability. To put it simply, you have a 2% chance of getting a 4-slot, 1-slot, 1-slot configuration, a 3-slot, 3-slot, 1-slot configuration, or a 2-slot, 2-slot, 2-slot configuration. Realistically speaking, the best one of these is the triple 2-slot, unless we are specifically talking about something like a guard build with some required skills that are 3-slot decorations. Moving on to the second tier then, these are all a 5% chance to roll on each talisman, and they are 4-slot, 1-slot, no slot, 3-slot, 2-slot, 1-slot, or 3-slot, 3-slot, no slot. Then in the third tier, these all have a 6% chance of showing up. We have 4-slot and nothing else, 3-slot, 1-slot, 1-slot, 3-slot, 2-slot, no slot, and 2-slot, 2-slot, 1-slot. Then there is one more tier. These last ones are 11% chance of appearing each, so these are definitely the ones that you'll see the most often. 3-slot, 1-slot, no slot, 2-slot, 2-slot, no slot, 3-slot and nothing else, 2-slot, 1-slot, no slot, and then triple 1-slots. With all of these then, we know what the best skills are that can show up. We know all the new skills and thus even more great skills. We know all available decoration configurations and their chances of happening, which means that we can now comfortably work out what a potential god roll talisman would be like. And let me tell you, it is meaty as hell. Here it is: 3 Frostcraft, 2 critical boost, and 3 2-slots. That is 8 skills worth of space in a single talisman. And for anyone who benefits from Frostcraft in a usable way, it also means that you don't have to use Volcana armor anymore, which arguably makes it even better. This is the new top end of talismans, and it is absolutely nuts what you can accomplish with this. Of course, there are some other skill configurations that could work for other builds, but this is the concept of a new best-in-slot talisman from the Vigor melding system. That said, let's look at all the other skills that can drop on these talismans as well, all the ones that I've not talked about or pointed out specifically. I won't call out any of them individually, but I'll have some nice graphics up showing you their maximum ranks as both the primary and secondary skills in those different slots, so if you want to hunt for anything more defensive or niche, you can now know how good your luck is actually going to be with finding them. With that then, it's time to talk about the other melding method that was added as well, the sort of recycling machine that is the Cyclus meld, where you can stick in 10 Vigor talismans and turn it into 3 Cyclus talismans. The talismans that you recycle have no bearing at all on the rewards from this meld, and interestingly enough, you can target a ton of skills to get guaranteed rolls on that skill of the talisman. That said, there are some important things to be aware of with this. First up, the skill rolls on Cyclus talismans are mostly the same as in the actual values that they can have. They have the same primary and secondary skill maximums on every skill that can be on them, meaning you can get 3 attack on a Vigor talisman or 3 attack on a Cyclus talisman. One isn't purely better than the other in this sense. That said, however, there are a number of skills available on Vigor talismans that you simply cannot get through Cyclus melding. A big thing that you need to be aware of is any skill that is not targetable through Cyclus meld simply does not show up on Cyclus talismans. Here is the full list, but essentially, if you are looking for any of these skills on talismans, then don't bother with Cyclus because it just won't happen there. They are incapable of being on those talismans. Instead, focus on the Vigor melding until you get what you're after, or at least something mostly acceptable to you. As for decoration slots, the Cyclus meld work exactly the same as well, so essentially it boils down to this. If the talisman that you want is some sort of mix of skills that are available for Cyclus melding, then Cyclus is great. It lets you force the primary skill on the talisman, which gives you a much higher chance of getting a good usable talisman that does what you want. However, if your goal is any of those 12 skills on this list, then do not bother with Cyclus. Just focus fully on Vigor, as these skills are only available through the Vigor melding. And that's it, everyone. Every important bit of information on both of the new melding options that we've been given in Title Update 5. I've tried to make this as concise and clear as possible. If you have any more specific questions, feel free to ask them down below in the comments, but hopefully the various slides of information along with my own further explanations have done a good job of making the system as a whole just a lot simpler for you to understand, as well as giving you a grasp of what the real top end of talismans now looks like in Sunbreak. Like like if you like the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.